All right, all you positive heads. On this week's Soul Share episode, I'm very excited to have Z EarthStar here with me on the show. Z is a Gridwork guardian and gatekeeper who founded the EarthStar Academy with the aim of assisting the restoration of love to the heart of all humanity. Super excited to have you here. Hello, Z. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hi, Brandon. Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. It took us a little bit to coordinate, but it seems like the dragons really aligned the perfect
Uh,
time for us to come together.
Exactly. Yeah, we had we definitely had some missed potential conversations in the past, and usually when that sort of thing happens where it gets like, okay, this is like, more than once, this is like, it seems like a timing kind of thing, like something is causing the timing there's a better moment for us to connect. And of course, as we're sort of starting to prepare to turn on the microphone here. I asked about what's one thing that I should bring up, and you said dragons. And I mean, I've heard more about dragons and had more dragon stuff come up in the last 3 days than the rest of my life combined. Including visions from my girlfriend and other friends, and yeah, just a lot. So obviously, that is a piece of it. As we just entered the year of the dragon, too. So but before we dive into all that, I'm going to start. I want to start with my cliche opening question, which is this: You're in an elevator. The woman next to you looks over, says, "What's your passion?" You got 10 floors to answer. What do you say?
I am on a mission to bring God's love back into the heart of humanity.
Which we touched on. So you are true to you're true to form. I love it. Um, Very cool. Well, let's dive into what that looks and sounds like from your perspective. And I think a good thing to always do is give people some backstory about whoever's on the show. And if you could just whatever feels relevant to share regarding who you are, how you got to doing the very unique work that you're doing.
Hello everyone. My name is the Earth Star. If you haven't ever met me before, it's actually a very special day today. At the time of the recording is January 4th, and the Earth, the Sun, and the Sirius star system is coming into a straight line. And so usually there's a Stargate opening, and we can access these energies. And I say this because I was actually born during this alignment in the summer in July. I was born in China. My birth name was Xiangming, which means fragrant medicinal tea. My
Oh
father
wow.
named me after reading an astrology book for a few days. And I truly
No.
feel that this is like a destined name for me. My
Mm,
family immigrated out of China when I was 9 in 2003. And I grew up with a lot of spiritual experiences that was normal to me, but I was a really quiet kid. So I didn't know that
mm-hmm,
it wasn't like normal for everyone. But
mm-hmm.
I would write Taoist poetry when I was like 4 and think
Wow.
about the eternal changing quality of time and things like that.
Wow.
Um,
It's a
but
lot
then,
different than Barbies.
yeah, I mean, it was a different world, right? But I eventually started going to public school and fell completely and totally asleep. Went through kind of a significant dark night of the soul, dark years of the soul, where I tried to off myself and leave this world when I
Oh
was a
wow.
teenager and things like that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and this has really been a journey of experiencing like the traumatic state of being inside a planetary consciousness, multi-dimensional soul prison, as I like to call it. And then when I was
It's
18
one way to
years
look at
old,
it.
yeah, when I was 18, I had this awakening experience where I started communing with my galactic team, as I call it. This
hmm
voice just came in and was like, "Where are you from?" And I was like, I don't know, China." And it was like,
hmm
Andromeda. I was like, Andromeda? Like, what? I've never
Wow.
even, didn't even know that was like a place in space. And so I went
Wow.
home, I Googled beings from Andromeda. And
hmm
that's when I found all this information about star seeds, right? And at first I
Wow.
was like, there are people in this world that think they're aliens. But then, like, the more that I read about it, because I was like so magnetized to it, it was like, you've always been a sensitive person. You feel like you're here to help humanity. You, like, are sensitive to animals. And I was like, well, it's making more and more sense now why I've just always been so odd. And so, this set me off on a journey. I began to integrate my soul gifts of being able to see multidimensionally, see into energy realms, realize how this is all really connected to my Taoist ancestry as well. In Chinese medicine, how the meridians and the energy systems and this multidimensional perspective of our divine human anatomy, this is all ancient knowledge that came from dragons. And
Hmm.
so that's kind of what set me off. And I really just became inspired to learn as much as I can and remember as much as I can to help people navigate this world. You know, there's just so
Mm.
much out there. I feel like the best thing that we can do is just really learn how to listen and feel this vibrant aliveness in our heart and to really follow that in our
Yeah.
life.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, yeah, that had to be sort of shocking. Hearing, um, you know, of course, many people that I've had the pleasure of talking to on the show have had some sort of a, moment where they're, all of a sudden they're seeing or talking to their dead relative, or, having that out of body experience, or in your case, it just came through randomly one day as a voice.
So random. I was literally sitting in the back of a taxi, and this
Wow.
voice is just, or yeah, it was just like, "Where are you from?" I was like, "Whoa!" Because I've never, actually, I used to hear voices when I was younger,
Hmm.
like my ancestors and guidance and things like that. But like when I was like 5 or 6, and
Yeah.
when I started going to school, it stopped happening.
Hmm. And at the time, did it like scare you? Were you just like thinking, yeah, I'm losing my mind? Like, what was?
Yeah, it's interesting because this energy always felt so familiar and loving towards me. So
Hmm.
even though I was like, oh my God, what the heck was that? It also felt just so natural somehow as well.
Right. Right.
And I know you like to hear synchronicity stories. And so I'll just tell you this amazing one.
Oh, cool.
That
Kick it
voice
off.
came
Yeah.
in March of 2013, right? Right
Hmm.
after the end of 2012, when the big timeline activation happened. And so then this voice continued to guide me in what is called grid work. So you go and work with the energies of the earth and the ley lines
Hmm.
and the stargates. And eventually the voice led me to this land in New Mexico. And
Hmm.
when I got there, I started telling the guy about how I think I'm from Andromeda. I talked to these beings. And he's like, he just near turned white, right? He's like, oh my God, the guy that bought this land, his name was Stuart. He said that he was from Andromeda and he
Wow.
died in March of 2013, right when
Wow.
I heard the voice. And he was
What?
like, one day this little Chinese girl from Andromeda is going to come and
What?
she's going to build this starseed mystery school and this land is meant for her.
He
And
told
so
him that before
he died.
what?
Yeah.
Wow. Now that's a good story. Holy smokes. And he probably
Yeah.
thought, okay, this guy is crazy. I mean,
Because he
yeah.
was dying of cancer,
Yeah.
medications and
Yeah,
stuff,
right,
and
right.
but he still stayed there. He lived on the land by himself, like total recluse, and almost like was trying to fulfill his best friend's prophecy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you ended up did you spend time a long period of time in New Mexico? Is that?
Correct. Yes. I still
Yeah.
have this property. I mean, in order that the land has a destiny, right? Like all land masses have consciousness. So when
Yep.
we go to
Yep.
a sacred site, it's really the intelligence of the earth that's instructing the humans or the animals or the living beings to orchestrate these things. And so the land has a destiny. And so I have this gift of being able to communicate to land. I always get guided to different pieces of land. And now I understand why, because we're building actually this entirely new system called the
Mhm.
Aurora platform system that I can talk about more. Um, but yeah, I lived there from 2018 to 2020, the end of 2021.
Mhm.
The man actually left me some of his retirement money, and I was able to actually get a little home on the property. I lived in an RV for a long time.
Hold
Actually,
on.
one of the most
I'm sorry. I just wanted to stop you there just real quick. So he actually left this land to you.
Yeah, so I mean, so he left the land in a what is it called? Like a
Trust.
trust. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then I became the president of the nonprofit.
But you never
So
knew this person in your life, and because you showed up there and fit the description, whoever was stewarding
uh,
it, is that am I following the story correctly? Whoever
correct.
So someone else was stewarding the property and
Who's
was
a
told.
meditator, who communicates, who channels, yes.
Mhm, mhm.
And so him and his best friend, Stuart, they had a channeling group. They had every single starseed book imaginable to man in their
Yeah.
little trailer. And for many years, they tried to build a community. And actually, how I ended up there was like I had this vision of these new earth communities, right? Where people
Mhm,
would be happy and they would heal each other and just live with the
mhm,
land. And then that day, I went on the computer because I was just a kid, I used to smoke
mhm,
cigarettes, and I
mhm.
Googled, like, do cigarettes lower your vibration or something like
Mm,
this?
uh-huh, uh-huh.
And then to my shock, like, this link that came up right away was like fifth dimensional community. And I was like, fifth, what? That's like
Uh-huh.
not what I
What's that?
searched.
Yeah, yeah.
So I clicked on it, and that's how I connected with this person. So
Mm,
I say that the internet is telepathic and like,
mhm.
we
Wow.
just,
Wow. So then
yeah.
the person that was left, the friend, you
Mhm.
said his name was Stuart?
The guy that's still on the land, his name is Rich.
Oh, got it. Got it. That's
Richard.
interesting because that's funny because, I have a co-living event space that's a hub for conscious community that me and my partner run here in Los Angeles, and the owner of the property is Rich.
Oh, wow, that is
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah. Really cool. Yeah, and it came through
Yeah.
very synchronistic, sort of like download of an idea of what I would do at the property. It's 5 in the morning, and
Yeah.
I look online and find this property. First thing I find, I contact him. He's like, "How'd you get my number? Why is my no? How did it even get listed?" And then we became friends, and here I am years later. So
Yeah,
somewhat
it's so
similar.
interesting, right? Like, the divine orchestration
Yeah.
is
Wow.
so amazing.
So, okay, so let's talk about your journey from there. Well, first off, what also comes to mind is as a longtime friend of the show, friend of mine, Sandra Walter. She's the only other person I think I've had on that really like how she refers to herself as a grid worker, gatekeeper. It spent a lot of time in. She was in Mount Shasta, and now I think she's in Sedona, if I recall. Are
I
you familiar with her
absolutely
by any chance?
adore Sandra. She
Yeah.
was,
Okay.
like, the person that she was, like, the first, like, way shower that really, like,
Hmm.
shined her light, and I was like, "Wow, like,
Yeah.
that's so resonant." So, yeah, I
She's
love
You
Sandra.
have a similar like um calmness, to your as someone who errs on the leans to the spazzy side sometimes energetically, like lots of like you're like Sandra, where it's like you are very have that very peaceful, and yeah, she's wonderful. Yeah, I had some cool synchronicity with her because I have a lot of synchronicity with my birthday. It's my dad's birthday. Great grandmother died on that day, and it's like a 10-minute
Wow.
story if I tell you the whole thing, like all the connections. And her dad, it has my birthday as well.
Oh, wow.
But but well, okay, where to even go from here? So you consider yourself, I guess, you hear people refer to star seeds, right? Is that what you would call yourself?
Yeah, I don't even know. I mean, I feel like the words help us navigate, because this is such a different path
Yeah.
than what is normally available. And, I dropped out of high school and I became like the top 1% of first generation immigrant
Immigrants.
Chinese people that actually like don't go to school, right? So
Uh-huh.
it's just like an open-ended unknown, and it was so devastating and confusing for my
Yeah.
parents. But yeah,
Right.
I think the word starseed was really a north star for me for a
Mm-hmm.
really long time. And I feel like at this point I am evolving into an adult, and so I'm kind of growing back into love with this word human. I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, like being human is actually so multidimensional, and there's so many programs that want us to hate humanity and hate planet Earth. Meanwhile, concealing like how incredibly miraculous and multidimensional being a human being really truly is.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's definitely this next my guides, they told me that from 18 to 27 was like me exploring my cosmic galactic aspects, and beyond 27 is me figuring out really like what being a woman is, what being an
Mm-hmm.
adult human being is, because that's
Mm-hmm.
such a missing conversation. And so that's why my academy is called EarthStar
Mm-hmm.
Academy,
Mm-hmm.
because it's really this unifying
Mm-hmm.
place where the earth wisdom and the cosmic wisdom come together. And it was really incredible to then begin to really work with my ascended Taoist ancestors that I have an equally amazing relationship with. They are, there's like my galactic angelic beings who are buying me land through time, apparently. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's like my ancient Taoist ancestors who are coming through my children. I'm channeling my children when I'm pregnant, and they're teaching hundreds and hundreds of people through their courses, and people are having dreams of my babies that are coming to them, in their dreams and in their
Wow.
meditations to help them. And so, there's just this immense, it's like a cyclical spiral circle is coming full circle for me, where I'm realizing that the angelics and the dragons seeded this knowledge in the ancestors, and who
Mm-hmm.
kept this knowledge in these wisdom scrolls. And then they went through these falls of consciousness. And now we're coming back to actually resurrect those temples, but also
Mm-hmm.
bring those teachings back into their original highest emanation.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. And I guess, I'm curious how, a couple of things when I think of dragons, of course, we just entered the year of the dragon. Um, and, as I said, it's wild because there's been, my partner's had a lot of like visions, some very intense and detailed visions of past life dragon centric reality, some of which where I
What's
was
her
there.
name?
Her name is Karen.
Oh, okay.
Karen
Thank you.
Fahey. Karen Fahey is her name, and yeah, and so that's something that's come up a lot. I had someone recently on the show who just intuitive who was like, "Oh wow, talking about me." She's like, "You have really deep Celtic roots that go back to the time of dragons and like." So it's just come up, there. But like I said, in the last 3 days, it's like there's been I it's been wild. So it was so funny when I asked you, what do you want to talk about? What's one thing I might not know? So just curious, yeah, what you care, what you'd like to share about that particular energy and why it's so prevalent and important at this time.
Yeah, so for me, the dragon consciousness is the most primordial creational intelligence in the universal body. So
Mm,
if we think about this eternal, infinite piece that is original God creation before anything was ever made into manifestation, any
mm,
universes, any planets, anything. And then the creational piece, had these dreams, and these dreams erupted into these creations, and the first ever carriers of those creations that carry the knowledge of the architecture of how the dimensionalities come into existence, and the DNA architecture of planets and stargates and living beings. All of this knowledge is what is held in the body of the universal dragon intelligence. And so the dragons are the first primordial guardians of original creation. And the guardian energy is like this deep honor and reverence for creation as something that is sacred. So this guardian energy is coming up very strongly because this is a ancestral, like a cosmic ancestral energy to all light workers and starseeds, like all of life. So if you're waking up and you're like feeling this deep call in your heart to be of service to life, and to be a guardian to all of the sacred things that are on the earth and human life and all of that, then it is really this original primordial dragon in desire that is erupting from the most primordial life force essence of your innermost core. And when we realize that, from this perspective, we're being unified, right? Because you see in our spiritual community, there's like the truthers, there's the spiritual quacks, there's like the, biohackers, and like everybody is approaching at this from a different angle. But what is unifying us all is this deep intention in our heart to ultimately be a guardian of the sacred. And this is the essence of the dragon energy and what the dragons hold and what they teach. And in the beginning, humans, there's a lot of discussion about human nature, and there's a lot of confusion about it in our world because, again, they're trying to seed this confusion. They're trying to make us forget who we are. But to me, there's no confusion. Human nature is divinity in essence. Human
mm.
beings are meant to be the divine embodied, meant to be these sparks of God in these immaculate human bodies. And so, um, I just lost my train of thought. Ah,
That's okay.
all right, dragons.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's interesting. So do you feel are you like when you're shown information about um you know, related to dragons, are you seeing it like more of like a multi-dimensional sort of thing? Do you see visions of like when do you believe they were actually here on Earth at one point in, in our 4 billion year past or whatever, which I think that's a lot of time. Like, I don't think we have any idea what's fully been here and not, over that time. But yeah, just
I
curious.
did. I saw this meme last week that was like, how come in the Chinese zodiac, like all 11 of these animals are real animals, and then there's just like what this one random non-imaginary
Right, right,
like
right,
dragon creature.
right. Mm-hmm.
So I do believe that dragons are real, but I also believe that in other times, in other phases, human beings were much more in touch with other dimensionalities, and the
Mm-hmm.
dimensions weren't as separated.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of things that's happened on Earth, genocides of sacred people, genocide of trees. And
Mm-hmm.
trees hold a lot for human and planetary consciousness because they're really a bridge between realms. And so they were very sacred trees in, the Celtic areas,
Mm-hmm.
in the Chinese mountains, in different Stargate locations. And these populations of trees actually held a very special purpose of being a bridge between worlds. And so when they attempted to sever humanity from the higher dimensions, from our source knowing, they actually went on the Roman Empire, is the latest time this happened, I think, actually went on these incredible crusades to cut down these trees. And this was so painful for a lot of us original dragon family people, if you love trees, because there were actually these dragon tree tribe people in the Celtic era, and just like you have a human body, you would actually have a tree. So your
Mm-hmm.
soul would exist in your human body and your tree, almost like your twin flame
Mm.
or whatever.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm curious with sort of the visions and multidimensional information that comes through for you. Does that go over into like, okay, you're talking to a person like right now, and do you have like intuitive psychic impressions around people as well? Is it like this? You get these sort of downloads when you're in a meditative state. Like, how does it? I'm just curious how it all kind of comes through for you.
Yes, I have multidimensional aspects. I had a lifetime in Andromeda where I studied light field genetics,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm able to tune into that aspect of me and apply the abilities that part of that part of me has cultivated.
Mm-hmm.
So I can scan fields, I can scan people, I can scan timelines,
Mm.
and I really do meditate a lot to keep my field clear. But this seems to be a gift that I have. I used to do a lot of sessions for people. I don't do one-on-one sessions anymore because I'm
Mm-hmm.
more about teaching people how to do that for themselves at
Mm-hmm.
this point. But yeah, I do see, you were asking, I see them in form, I
Mm-hmm.
feel them, I see
Mm-hmm.
them through time, and I also see them in the earth and the elements, because again, it's like in order to understand dragon consciousness, dragons are like the most multidimensional beings ever. And so they can come through, wood, they can come through rivers, they can come through
Mm-hmm.
mountains, they can come through clouds, they come through other people and our ancestors. And what I was saying earlier is that in the beginning of time, human beings are holding this purpose and this destiny to be creator beings. What that means is that we are meant to embody these qualities of original creation, these qualities of God. And these qualities of God are, eternal peace, unconditional love, all knowing, all capable. And this is how, when an avatar or just a person that is really devoted to their highest realization, when they really begin to sit on this path, they begin to actually embody these abilities, right? We've heard so many stories of these masters who are able to perform miracle healing or bilocate or levitate. And
Mm-hmm.
this is a soul that is incarnated so deeply into the physical body, and the flesh has ascended into its potential that they're beginning to embody higher and higher levels of their original qualities of God.
Mhm, mhm,
And so this was always the destiny of human beings, to not only embody those things, but also to be a co creator, also
mhm,
to have this innate curiosity and this imagination to be able to fulfill this creative impulse. And that's why we have so much abundance on this planet. It's not just for us to like have good food and to
yeah,
enjoy, and it is. But when you're in the creative flow and you're making music or art or you're carving
mhm,
things, there's something that happens, right? You just feel so fulfilled by something that is bigger than you. And so understanding that humans are imbued with the power of creation,
Yeah.
it puts a lot into context because this is a really big responsibility. I mean, you see in the world today how humans have misused this power, and it's created so much devastation on our planet. And so, really, the dragons originally are these guardians. They taught this knowledge of creation to different families. And there's original Celtic dragon family. There's an original Chinese dragon family. There are original, Aboriginal dragon families, and there all of these dragon families hold certain pieces of these dragon scrolls, which held this architecture or this energy of how humans are meant to live in right relation with
Mm,
all of life and with the earth. And
mm,
so this is a frequency that I'm transmitting to you right now through the heart, where it's like, how can we co-create holding the energies of honor and integrity and true reverence for all of life? And I
mm-hmm,
think this is why they're coming back right now. Because I shared with you, I did this energy report last week just on the dragon year. I was
mm-hmm.
meditating and I was tuning into the dragons. And then I was like, all right, what do you want me to share with the people? And then all of a sudden I see these dragons and they're eating the city. I'm like, oh no, like I'm
Wow.
not going to tell people that. And they're
Yeah.
like, no, 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 no. Like we're not actually going to destroy the city. What they're eating, what they're destroying is the consciousness
Hmm.
underlaying the
Yeah.
creation of certain city structures, right? This lack of care for nature, total, abuse of resources and pollution and, segregation of communities and things like that. And this is a consciousness that it needs to get destroyed this year, inside us all, right? We think we want the wars to end, but we still hate our ex-boyfriend and we want him
Yeah.
to, die or whatever it is.
Right. Right.
So, or we just hate ourselves and we wish we would get skinnier, and we just want to abuse ourselves. And we've been installed with all of this war consciousness,
Yeah.
separation consciousness, viral consciousness, and this is what is getting destroyed. And
Mm,
for those of us that are going along with the destruction willingly, it's
mm-hmm.
going to be magical. It's going to be
Wow.
easeful. It's going to be abundant and prosperous. And for those of us who are clinging on to the old ways, it might get a little dicey for them because the dragons might eat them,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's really interesting that you bring this up because, when we first turned this on, um, you asked me, well, how are you doing? And I was like, honestly, the last couple of days have been pretty rocky. And part of it is, I mean, you just used several words in that whole segment of you talking where, words that I even used yesterday, it's like, there's the parts of myself that are less mindful and tend to disassociate or do things that are, you know, less my destiny card, I don't know if you're familiar with destiny cards, is King of Hearts. And so for me, I've kind of set the intention
oh,
this year is I want to step more into my king self and lessen to
yes.
the prince who's immature or doing things that aren't the highest. You always think of the mischievous prince, and I've had plenty of that energy. And so it's funny because even last night I even said I'm just want to destroy those. I'm ready for those parts of myself to be destroyed. And I had like a sort of a release around it. So that's
Wow.
literally what you're talking. You just use the word, to just those of us who are ready for the destruction willingly, right?
Yeah.
And that's literally what I said out loud. I don't think I've ever said the word destroy in relation to myself in my entire life, and I did a few hours ago, and
That's
so
incredible.
yeah, so that's a really cool confirmation and affirmation. And I think, yeah, that's really understanding that something old has to be die in order for something new to be born. And that's
Yeah.
not always it's like for the caterpillar, it's not a pretty process to become the butterfly.
No.
You melt into a goo and, and so I think we're going to see a lot of that. But once again, those of us who are like, in alignment in understanding that process, it will be the easiest path to the butterfly. But still, it's still going to be challenging, and it's meant to be, is what I feel. And one
Mhm.
thing that I'll also share that's another kind of tie-in is I had mentioned I mean, literally yesterday, you mentioned dragons can come in clouds. Yesterday, someone sent a picture of a dragon in a cloud to us. Someone else wanted to tell their dragon stories. Someone else, you know, is channeling a dragon and told us like there's this thing that's going to happen in Romania at Dracula's castle. I'm being called to go do this whole like healing there, like, and they've been invited to
Wow.
the castle and want us to help with it. And just like
Wow.
they're in dragons were a part of that, and you know, and yeah, it's
Incredible.
what I was going to share. One last thing, and then I'll shut up. Is my partner Karen, one of her very intense, she's had a few visions of dragon related lives, it feels like to her, or visions, and one of them was very similar to what you're saying, where she was being shown. First, it was like a UFO, and it was like she was one person, she was a man, and then all of a sudden she was herself, and then it was like Inception style dream. I mean, I won't share the whole thing; it's very detailed and deep. And if you ever wanted to hear it, I'm sure she'd love to talk to you about it. But then it ended in, out of these ships coming a dragon and what looked like a dinosaur, and they were just fighting like in constant battle, and then they would consume each other and like and disappear. It was like they would cancel each other out, and it was just showing what she felt was like this process, this wheel that we've been on between like the dragon self and the, I don't know, like the reptilian kind of
Mm-hmm.
self, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very intense, dramatic, vivid, with this dragon and dinosaur just continually in like a infinite loop, like destroying each other.
Wow, that is intense.
Yeah. Yeah, really, really a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, it's so much there. I feel like that's such a beautiful dream. I would love to talk to her about it
Mm,
because I think it's so relevant to all of us. You know, when you were saying about the reptilian, like people often ask, like, aren't dragons reptilians? And then some people are like, dragons are evil. And it's like, well, reptilians are genetically digressed dragons, and evil
mm,
human beings are genetically digressed,
interesting.
originally template divine humans.
Mm,
And so that's what happens when we go through a fall, and there was an intention for the fall. And the good
mm-hmm,
news is that that intention, which was this experiment for universal absolute free will, that architecture is actually coming to an end. And
mm-hmm.
we're evolving as a universal whole into a higher octave existence, just kind of like how humans have lifetimes, universal bodies have lifetimes as well.
Yeah.
And so we are transcending out of that consciousness. But as we're doing that, it is this process of literally recognizing that it's all ourself. I want to say, like, oh, you know, Epstein's list just came out, like, that guy is so evil. But that guy is just a representation of one of the most digressed versions of
Mm-hmm.
ourself.
Right.
Even the worst people are just genetically digressed spectrum versions of our unified collective whole. And we realize that then we can really begin to perform this quantum magic of rehabilitating our DNA, our
Yeah.
consciousness. And this is a process called bioregenesis. And this
Mm,
is really something that we hold space for and facilitate inside of my programs in my school. And
mm-hmm,
then something else I wanted to circle back because you said something amazing about wanting to step into your king energy.
mm-hmm,
And this is something that's been so present. You wouldn't think because I'm a woman, but
mm-hmm,
when I was pregnant with my daughter a couple
mm-hmm,
years ago, I would tune into her energy, and then she brought through this whole body of work called Healing the Womb. And
mm,
she was supporting me in activating like the womb as a stargate and
mm.
healing sexual trauma. And when I would tune into her, she's got this beautiful, like rain in the jungle, soft rain in the jungle kind of frequency, right? So
Wow.
beautiful.
Wow.
Now I'm pregnant with this little boy,
Wow.
and he's going to be born, you know, in the year of the dragon. And the other day, I was lying in bed and he's literally having a dragon battle like inside of my body.
Oh, wow.
And I'm just like on fire. He's like, "Mom, stay out of the way." He's like battling these like ancient, evil, tyrannical, false, fallen dragons of China, you know,
Wow.
that like ended up being like this tyrannical family that is still ruling, that's trying to take over the world, right? It's just like, I want power. I want to rule the
Yeah.
world. And
Wow.
yeah, sorry. And then he's bringing through this like original king consciousness,
Mm,
which is like, you know, for even for women, like we all have an inner queen and an inner king.
right.
And when I was a little girl, one of the visions that I would hear like was like this female, like an auntie, and she would be like, a real princess takes care of her people. And that's
Mm.
all she would say. And she would come back and say this to me like every couple of days.
Wow.
And, back when I was a kid, I didn't think much of it. But then as I grew up, I realized she really made an impact in my developing consciousness because what she was trying to do was kind of sculpt me into an honorable and humble human being because she knew that I'm carrying a lot of creational power and a
Hmm.
lot of ability to manifest and create on a really high level. And she needed to just remind me as I grew up into our world where it is so much of this like, I'm a queen, I'm a
Hmm.
goddess
Hmm.
kind of virus where this is an inversion where the
Right.
king and queen and the princess and the prince is like, how is this reality serving me? How can I get what I want? How can
Right.
I live this dream life when really the
It's like, well,
original
oh, sorry. Go
it's like
ahead.
what? Sorry,
I,
no.
I, I was, yeah, sorry. I got excited and I should have let you finish. Lao Tzu said it best. Why is the sea king of 100 streams? Because it lies below them. Therefore, it is king of 100 streams. And
Wow.
it's the serving, not the
Yes.
I'm on the throne and bring me, gifts. It's the exact opposite of the original king. Sorry, I got excited. Continue,
I'm
please.
so excited that you're excited about this, right? This is
Yeah.
like really the emergence of this original consciousness of the king and queen, which is so important. It's so amazing that people are resonant and they want to be a goddess, they want to be a queen, but
Hmm.
really recognizing that in order to step into that consciousness, we're here to literally be capable of being in service to an entire nation. And you
Hmm.
think about what it really means is like, well, you have to clean your room, you have to take care of yourself, you have to have a schedule, you have to take care of yourself, you have to take care of your family, your finances. And then once you have all of that taken care of, you're saying, okay, now I have even greater capacity to be of service to even a greater number of people in an even greater domain than myself.
Yeah.
And this is the evolutionary process of, going from a child to an adult, really,
Yeah.
or
Right.
from a maiden into a mother. And so, yeah, I'm so excited that this is a goal for you this year because I think it's something that we're all needing to really work on. Like
Yeah.
if you resonate with a king and queen and goddess consciousness, really feel into what the earth is asking from you from that call and
Yeah.
then feel that frequency difference between these inversions of the false matrix, and then evolve, like learn to evolve our character, evolve our emotional intelligence, evolve our humanness into a place where we can actually be mature and responsible for the world.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's really the key word is like stepping into maturity. It's like we've all seen the depictions of the self-absorbed, selfish, immature prince, and not to say or princess, and of course not to say there hasn't been the opposite of that as a prince and princess too, but that's oftentimes a depiction. Like, it's spoiled their whole lives, and me, and I think we all have that part of ourselves, the low side of our potential, and
Yeah.
then you have the as Lao Tzu said, where you're understanding like, oh, it is in serving that I truly become
Mm.
a great leader. And yeah, and I'm curious. You mentioned false matrix, and uh, I'm curious your thoughts and what you've been shown related to, because of course we hear a lot of this sort of thing, like, oh, we're in the matrix, we've been imprisoned by you know um, uh, oh, what are the beings that Zachariah Sitchin talked about? I'm going blank. Um,
Anunnaki.
yeah, the
Or
Anunnaki or whatever the story is around all of that. I'm
yeah.
just curious, as someone who's perceiving multidimensionally, more than the average person, what you have been shown in your perception and understanding of it is of our yeah, the are we have we been imprisoned in some way, and if so, by who? And of course, if so, I would say it's you can't you can't achieve freedom without the opposite of it. So certainly from my perspective, whatever's going on, it's by divine design. So yeah, just curious how you perceive all that.
Yeah, so it's really important to say that it is through my own perception that I've come to these conclusions quite literally because when I was first waking up back in 2015, my galactic team would tell me to go and sit in the shopping mall, which was my least favorite place. And
Mm,
I'm like, I'm not going to the mall. And they would just walk my body. I would sit in the food court and I would be like, okay. And I would scan everything. And they're like, it's really important for you to access and realize and perceive everything through your own noggin. And this is why I wasn't really allowed to like read people's books, listen to other people's channelings or anything like that, because they just told me it was really important for me to keep my channel totally clear.
mm,
And so I would sit there and I would realize that humans are literally blocked from the top and the bottom, our connection to cosmic source, through religious programming and atheism, which is one of the darkest curses, darkest spells that's ever been
mm,
placed
mm,
upon humans. Because, to enforce this belief of atheism, the person is literally locked away from their connection to divinity because of their own belief system, right? It's this prison inside of their own mind. But then from the lower chakras, from the root, we're also severed from the earth, which is like the earth aspect of our source, of the source of life, the mother of our creation. And what happens is that then we're in this artificial frequency fence, right?
mm,
We're not connected organically to the higher realms or the earth. We are
mm,
in kind of this phase shift
mm,
dimension. And
mm,
this is where people are living, are creating from, are living out their whole lives. And I would say that this is a 3D false matrix soul prison, because it's locking people out of their ability to really live out their life. And how this happens is, through education system, through the medical system. It is all programming us to forget our human body's miraculous healing capacities, our body's miraculous citic powers, our ability to imagine and receive directly from our soul and live out our destiny, live out our dream, create things that are beautiful, that uplift the consciousness and the experience of all of life on earth. You think of how most people are growing up. I mean, I read this research paper by NASA. They tested all these children for their genius when they were 5, and 98% of these children are geniuses. And then they tested them again, in 5 years, and that number steadily decreased into their adulthood until only 2% left were
wow.
still holding their genius. And it's like, okay, so are geniuses born, or are they literally bred out of us
Right,
through the
right.
education system, which is entirely intentional? So, who's doing it? I think that is multifaceted. There are interdimensional demons that are influencing humans that are in key positions. A lot of people are just operating from autopilot. So, most people that are enforcing the system, like doctors and teachers, are just traumatized human beings that really don't know what's going on, or just going along with it. But, at the deepest level, I do feel that there is very horrific things, as we all know, because Epstein's list just came out. So, like, that's literally the tip of the iceberg of what these people have been doing for eons and eons.
Yeah.
Really, just, these rituals, they invert reality. They've stolen the original teachings of the dragons of how creation works, and they've used it to entrap and enslave humanity. So they understand that human sexuality is our connection to life. So they've inserted all this ridiculous programming and inversions into our sexuality so that we would be imprisoned. They understand that human imagination is our connection to the divine. And so they've intentionally inserted education, video games, all this technology to block our ability to connect with that. They know that our heart is a portal to telepathy. So look at all this, emotional pain programming, like these music that they're playing, men only want to be tortured, women are a slave, like the subconscious messaging that's in the pop music these days.
Hmm.
None of that is by accident, right? It's entirely by design. And so it's very easy to look around in our world today. I say that we live in a satanic society. Not that is very, I mean, it hasn't been overt. I guess in the last couple years it's become very overt, because I literally just saw there's like a Cosmopolitan post on their public Instagram page that was like, get a satanic abortion ceremony. And I was like, what? I
Wow.
was absolutely shocked. You can literally go on as like, they have 4 million followers. They brag on their bio about being like the biggest, young women media company in the world. And then if you scroll down, there's literally 3 entire posts about satanic abortion ceremonies. And so they're
Wow.
becoming more and more overt with it. But
Yeah.
even before this, time, You can tell because, what Satanism really is an utter and complete lack of reverence and even disgrace towards what is holy.
Hmm.
And so most people in our society today live without an ounce of reverence for nature, for
Yeah.
our bodies, for all that is sacred, right? And so you don't have to be aggressively on the other side. All you have to do is live without reverence in your heart to be existing in a satanic society. And of
Hmm.
course, we do have that degradation with the programming and the media and everything. And so this is really about our core essence and human, like what humans are and who humans are meant to live in accordance to. And we realize that we're really living in a fallen consciousness
Hmm.
as a whole. So that's my perspective
Hmm.
on that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, you're right. There's a lot of more. I mean, I forget. Somehow I ended up following someone who posts a lot around, like pop stars and their sets on stage, and it's like all this, or hip hop artists, and it's all the satanic
Hmm.
related thing. Like, oh, this is hip, this is cool. Satan,
Hmm.
satanic, super dark,
Right.
whatever. And so it's a really interesting thing that is getting more like blatant in a way. I've definitely
Hmm.
seen it myself. I mean, I haven't been to Cosmo's Instagram now. I'm curious just to see, like, wow, that. I
Yeah.
mean, think of if they had done that in the '90s or '80s. I was a little kid in the '80s, and so I remember like it was a big deal. The Satanism became like, Geraldo Rivera, special report on Satanism, and like, and my little brother having trouble sleeping at night from watching it.
Hmm.
And, but, I'm curious how you think that energy kind of rising to the surface, is that, and simultaneously, I mean, I just was part of a 300-person event on New Year's where it's just like all incredibly conscious people, no alcohol. Everyone is in this expanded field. And we did this 4-hour prosperity portal ritual. And, and it's like the rise of Christ consciousness on
Hmm.
the planet is obviously simultaneously happening. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. Um, yeah, just the
Hmm.
rise of Christ consciousness and how you see the two juxtaposing each other.
Yeah, so it's obvious that these people are forced to be more and more overt so that they can sustain some sort of power and contain the awakening that's happening. But I also feel like, I mean, this is why I say so forthfrontly that my mission is return God's love to the heart
Hmm.
of humanity. Because, we all grew up in this society, and unless we consciously go in to heal our God wound, then even if we're really conscious, even if we're really awake, we can still be disconnected from God. We can still have this rejection of even saying the word, right? A lot of people want to say source and Christ consciousness. We skirt around the word, and I'm all for using words that feel comfortable for us. But
Hmm.
as long as, that discomfort is there, it's really about tracking it inside of ourselves and saying, okay, like, do I feel oppressed by this false God that has been inserted into our world? Do I feel like this masculine energy of divine father, do I feel that I can receive love from that? Do I feel a place in my heart for Holy Mother? Like, do I feel a connection in my daily life with God and recognize that, because I think that it's tricky when we grow up with that space inside of our heart empty. Every single human being is born with a cathedral, a space inside of our heart that is filled with God, filled with God's love, filled with our inner union with that creation. And that union, is filled with both humility and wonder. And when we grow up without that, we can have all sorts of kind of coping mechanisms, right? Because the world is trying to tell us that we're not sacred and you're just, you're unworthy, you don't matter. And so we grow up with this rebelliousness that says like, well, I am divine, I am God. And then we can take that too far into saying like, well, I'm God, right? And then we lose that reverence for this mystery that is essential for human life, is
Hmm.
essential for us to be a healthy human being, to have this right relationship. Right relationship is so essential because yes, we are divine. We have a right relationship with our humanness. We have a right relationship with each other, holding reverence for each other as divine. We also have to have right relationship with this greater aspect of us that we can never be as a human being. We
Yeah.
can never be the fullness of God. And in our human body, we must always just hold that reverence for the immaculate grace and mystery that that creation really is. And I really feel like unless we fully embody that, then this force can continue to exist because that missing place in our heart is the place where that lack of reverence, that Satanism can continue to exist.
Hmm.
And so this is the work, I have a lot of courses, and what people always say is like, I thought I was coming to learn about A, B, and C, implants, my light body. I thought I was coming to learn about aliens. I thought I was coming to learn about my womb. And then what they end up experiencing and what they end up gaining is that they feel like their personal relationship with God is repaired and they now are filled with that love. And it's so interesting because, if I just market and say, I'm here to help you, heal your relationship with God, people don't buy that stuff, right? Because
Hmm.
that's the trick, is that when that hole is there, when that void is there, we don't want anything to do with God. We don't know what we're missing. And so it's like I have to share all these things that our mind thinks that we want, right? We want to talk to aliens, we want our psychic abilities, we want to have money, we want all these things. And then it's like, okay, like what do we really want? We want
Hmm.
that empty space inside of our heart to actually just be fully filled with that love that is so eternal and so magnificent and so full of all the things that our
Yeah.
body needs to be healthy.
Yeah.
And once that fullness is there, we realize that we come into peace. And from there, we can actually serve, right?
Hmm.
We can actually be an instrument of whatever that force is asking for us. We recognize that God wants the highest for us. God wants our highest love and our highest joy and our highest peace and our highest prosperity. But it has to come from this earnest and pure desire to be in union with that creation.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. Well said. It's very beautiful. And, what came to mind when you were talking about the reverence is Thich Nhat Hanh said, walk as if your feet are kissing the earth. And so that
Mm,
is a big part of my, as I said, wanting to step more into the king part of myself. And for me, what that looks like is being more reverent, like being more aware, being more not disassociating, not
mm,
just mindlessly eating, or it's like, think of the person who just like can scarf something down really fast, and then versus someone who's like praying over their food and like is enjoying every bite. And so I think that is a when it comes to how do people start freeing themselves and stepping into this path,
mm,
to me those are like sort of the low hanging fruit ways,
mhm.
to
Yeah.
literally, I'm going to walk as if my feet are kissing the earth today. I'm going to, anytime I see myself slipping into a compulsion sort of behavior, for me is a big one.
Mm.
Like, what just happened? My food's almost gone, and I don't have any memory of what happened. It's like complete disassociation and compulsion to get the thing, do the thing, grab it, consume whatever. And I think bringing presence is, one of the main things that can get us on the path.
Yeah, I love that. That's beautiful. And I just want to say kudos to you for having that desire, having that intention, because that's like that place in our heart that's longing for that original place where we're just in union with that perfect reality, right? And we talk a lot about creating heaven on earth, creating new earth. Well, we can't unless we embody this frequency
Yeah.
of being in heaven, being in reverence, right? Being in love. I think that's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course, of course. So, what is? I imagine you've been shown different timelines and potentials for the future of humanity, with the multidimensional perceiving that you've done and work that you do. So I'm curious, what is the vision for the highest heaven on earth timeline? That you hold.
Yeah, so for me, I like to use the words Aurora Earth
Hmm.
because I'm very finely in tune to frequencies. And when words get used a lot, they can become hijacked. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, when I'm carrying a vision, I like to use Aurora Earth because the Aurora are this incredible inter-universal plasmic intelligence, kind of like an alien from another universe, that
Mm-hmm.
is coming into this universal body. So if you resonate with Andromeda, these beings came in from the high heaven realms of Andromeda. And so they are carrying, it's basically a gift from God. This gift from God is this remembrance of this original, perfect intelligence that is full of purity, innocence, divine love, creativity, right? And it's like here on earth, we've almost forgotten what that is because of the amount of trauma and degradation we've gone through. And so this frequency is now coming in and making contact with humans so that we can repair ourselves and come back into our original state. This is the work of the bioregenesis, right? Healing our consciousness, healing our emotions, healing our body so that we can once again resonate and actually vibrate in our original soul personality that is in a state of purity and divine love. And I know this word purity can be kind of triggering because it's also been distorted and hijacked throughout time. Like purity has nothing to do with what you do or what you don't do. It's not a puritanism. It's an essence. It's a frequency
Mm-hmm.
of innocence, right? It's like what they say when thou become like in like little children. Well,
Mm-hmm.
little children carry this innate innocence about them, and that innocence is our original state. And, our sexuality is meant to be founded by that consciousness of innocence.
Mm-hmm.
Our industry, our entrepreneurship, our money making is meant to be founded by that energy of innocence. And this is where we find that healing. And I feel like for 2024, I get that sense that a lot of people are going to have this deeper level of awakening into recognizing how much um, fallen Egyptian pantheon energy exists in
Mm-hmm.
our spiritual community, right? Where it's like we've been enslaved for so long. Now it's like, look how sexy I am. Look how wealthy I am. Look how, I'm going to have everything, like my dream house. And it's this false god overlay,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to be so careful because there's also this new age Luciferianism. And I think it's been really essential, actually. Like when a lot of people say, oh, these are false agents, like I don't think about it like that. I think that we're all consciousness evolving through these different layers of our own consciousness. So it's been very essential for certain people to embody that false Egyptian
Right.
energy, then to transcend it, right? Then to
Right.
recognize, oh, wait a minute. I have just crawled myself into this weird section. I call it the spiritual section of of Walmart, basically the new age spiritual sector of the false matrix, which is a real thing, right? It's like you're still in the matrix, you're just in the spiritual section now.
Right. Right. That's
And
funny.
this year, the dragons again are destroying. The dragons are creating these experiences because I truly believe that most of those people have a heart to serve,
Yeah.
right? Most of those people don't wake up and say, well, I think I'm going to trick a bunch of people into New Age Luciferianism today. They just didn't know. They were in their phase of their growth. So I think we can hold so much compassion and grace for each other as we're all just evolving. But I think the dragons are really orchestrating these experiences, inside of all of our lives to help us see the falsehoods, the distortions, the things that really need to get destroyed so we can all, excuse my language, just get our shit together,
Right.
because ultimately we're all here to build a brilliant civilization that is loving and respectful and supportive of all of life on earth. And in order for us to do that, we really have to all just do it together. We have to take responsibility for all of these things inside of ourselves and just come back to what is the most important thing, which is what I feel the filling up of this sacred space, the holiest of holies inside of our heart temple. And, then you're going to really be able to see when that is fully active in somebody's body
Mm-hmm.
and gain your role models in a better way, lead your life in a more towards the organic. And this is the way that we're going to create heaven on earth is if we all really just focused on that.
Yeah. Well said. Wow. I can't believe we're almost to an hour. That was gone quick. As we start to sort of wind down here, what you and typically I ask for story time at the end, although you shared an incredible story at the beginning. So you are off the hook if you would like to be. But I don't know if you have any other inspiring stories to share
I
that come to
do.
mind.
I have
Oh,
one more
great.
story I want to share.
Great.
You're gonna like it. Okay, so in the story, so when I woke up, I went to a lot of psychedelic raves and stuff. I had this one experience where I overdosed, and then some UFOs literally flew out. Like I was literally like in a bathroom stall, like dying. I couldn't see. I was blind. There was like pink swirls everywhere. I thought I was like, oh my god, I'm about to die. And then
Wow.
this little UFO flew out, and it lasered my two eyeballs. It straightened my spine, and then it walked me to the couch, and then I woke up 30 minutes later. I was in the best shape of my life. I kid you not.
Wow.
I literally felt like I had just done hot yoga for 3 days straight or something. And
Wow.
I was like, oh my God, I think they just saved my life. And they're like, please don't do that again. But
Wow.
so I was like exploring with psychedelics and things like that. But I never really felt called to do ayahuasca
Mm-hmm.
until 2016. I got called down to Costa Rica. I was actually volunteering at Fuente Verdes, which I think is, or is it Fuentes
Oh,
Harmonia? It's the
mm.
retreat center by the guy that does the Envision Festival. So I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like,
yeah. Punta Mona.
yes, I was like volunteering there. And
Yeah.
then there was a gardener. So one morning I had this dream, and this green goddess came to me and she was like, "You're becoming a shaman." And then I
Mm.
woke up from this dream and I'm like, "Whoa, what was that?" And I walk out into the garden, and the gardener, his name is Chris, he was like, "Oh my God, like there's our ayahuasca plant, but oh my, where is it?" And we like start running towards this plant. And it turns out the tree had fallen during the night that was
Wow.
carrying the ayahuasca. And so
Wow.
next thing I know, we were harvesting this plant and we were taking it back to his house because he had trained for 10 years with the natives there on cooking the medicine. And
Wow.
that's what led me into my first ayahuasca
Wow.
ceremony.
Wow.
And then in that ceremony, was when I really started opening up my multidimensional gifts of seeing interdimensionally and really seeing everything from this very compassionate perspective. Human bodies are so intricate. Like we are very plant like in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like consciousness flows through our system, and water carries this consciousness and is this very somatic and quantum way that we can perceive life inside of our body that is very plant like. And it helped me understand what I call bio spiritual abuse. This is the level of trauma that is really hard for us to talk about because we don't have words for it. It's like, what do you call when society has traumatized you? Right? Like
Mm-hmm.
the normalization of pornography and the sexualization of teenagers. Like, what do you call it when you've been programmed with these ideas of romantic love, or you just were given birth control, like these ways that society has abused your experience of life, your relationship with your soul. That is something that is like the deepest pain and agony that human beings experience but can't actually heal because they don't have language for it, they don't have perception for it.
Wow.
And that's basically this, what I hold space for is I call it galactic shamanism, is like transcending earth shamanism and in um, engaging in our healing in a multidimensional way to access into the emotional, the psychological, the etheric, the soul level, the spiritual, and the theory, the mental understanding. And really, this is all the things that I've been unpacking over the last 10 years and now hold space for inside of my school. So,
Wow. Amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, so if you would just take a moment and explain, the best way for people to connect with you, and if they want to, get connected to the EarthStar Academy, etc.
Yeah, so I've got a lot of free resources on my YouTube channel, like over 100 videos. It's EarthStar Academy. You can also find me on Instagram at earthstar.academy. I post on there like almost every day. It's like really great if you just want to get a little boost of energy. And then I also have a page for women where I post more, divine feminine ascension information. So that's at womb.temple.
Hmm.
And then for the EarthStar Academy, it is an $89 monthly subscription. you get access to the entire 500 plus module library. It's like a 3-year program
Wow.
into really embarking in your multidimensional healing work and bioregenesis. I mean, this information came through like the Guardians, the Galactics, the Dragons, and also my Taoist ancestors, right? And through
Wow.
my experience of 10 years training and breaking down these ideas and perceiving with my own consciousness. I used to do one-on-ones, and when I opened my calendar, I would book out for like a year in advance. And I
Wow.
realized that in order for me to help all the people that I'm here to help, I needed to create the system to help you be able to do it yourself. And so it's really multifaceted. You can check out the curriculum in its fullness on the website. We also do like 6 to 8 live calls every month. So that's healings and Q&As and workshops, and you have access to all the recordings to those as well. So it's really a comprehensive support system. Sometimes I'm just chilling, I'm in a bad mood, and I just put on one of the oracle healings, like maybe it's inner masculine healing or sexual
Mm,
trauma or whatever it
mm.
is. You'll find something in the library that can help you. And so, yeah, for this show, I've also created a 1 month free coupon, which is going to be positive head. So you can find that in the description, wherever that
Yeah, that's
lies.
very, very gracious of you. Yeah, we'll put a link down below, and then um, if you use the code Positive Head, you get the first month free. Which, yeah, super gracious of you to do, and I know people will appreciate that and uh, take advantage of that. So, yeah, I do have one final question for you. It is
Okay.
my cliche closer,
Uh-huh.
and in 60 seconds or less, what is the meaning of life according to Z Earthstar?
Oh, meaning of life is to perceive the beauty and the miracles and the perfection and the peace of eternal life in all things.
Yeah, I love that. We are floating in eternity. We might as well appreciate it, right? Thank you, Z, for taking the time to come on and share your insights and wisdom. It has been a pleasure and worth the wait.
Yes, thank you so much, Brandon, for having me on. It's been such an honor, and just thank you so much for all of that, and wishing you the greatest year ever in
Yes, thank
embodying
you.
your high king. I'm so excited for what's going to come after that as well, because that's when the legacy work really starts, is when the
Mm,
kingship lands. So I'm
yeah.
really excited for the whole world, for all the gifts that you're going to
Oh,
unpack.
oh, thank you for that. That's beautifully said. And thank all of you for tuning your beautiful brainwaves and incredible hearts into another episode. Until next time, journey well.